In this lecture, we will be learning how to install ROS Foxy on Ubuntu 20.04. These installation steps will be similar for all Debian-based Linux distributions. But just note, for this course, I will be using Ubuntu 20.04 as my operating system. With the browser open, I will navigate to the ROS2 Foxy installation page. Once here, I will select Debian Packages under the Binary Packages section. Please be careful as to not select the Linux option in the Build from Source section, as building ROS2 from source can take several hours to compile. There are 4 main steps to installing ROS2 on our Ubuntu machine: setting our locale, setting our sources, installing our ROS2 packages, and setting up our environment. The locale is generally correctly set up for UTF-8 in Ubuntu. In order to check, we can open up a terminal and we will run the locale command. Here we can see that the locale is already set to UTF-8, so I can leave it as is. If your machine does not say UTF-8, follow along with the installation instructions. On to setting up our sources. We will need to set up our sources for our apt repository manager to include ROS2 and its dependencies. I will copy this command, which will run the apt update command, and install the following dependencies. Careful not to copy both lines, as you may need to enter your password after running the first command. I will put in our password, which of course does not show to the terminal for security reasons. Go ahead and hit Y and enter. Then we'll copy the second part of the setup sources. Alright, then we will add the repository to our sources list. Now that we have set up our sources, let's install the ROS package. First, we will update our apt repository. Then we will go ahead and install ROS Foxy Desktop, which will include all of our ROS features and tools. This will take some time depending on your internet connection and your computer processor. I will go ahead and speed up the video to when the installation finishes. Okay, with that we now have ROS installed onto our computer. Before we can use it, we need to set up our terminal environment to be able to use ROS. In order to use ROS in terminal, we must first source our terminal to the ROS's setup.bash file. So we can go ahead and source it now with this command. It is worth noting, we will have to run this command every time we open a new terminal in order to use ROS. We will set up our environment so it automatically sources in a bit. But before I do that, we will finish the installation instructions by installing arg-complete. This will allow us to type ROS commands in and then hit the tab key to allow it to autocomplete the command or show available arguments we can use. Alright, with that we can actually use ROS. We can test that ROS works in the terminal by running the example code ROS provides. We will go over how these commands work later in the course. For now, we can run our Talker publisher node in this terminal. Then I can open a new terminal using Ctrl-Alt-T, resource the terminal, and run our listener node, which is a subscriber. and here we can see this terminal is subscribing to the messages sent by our publisher node above. To stop these nodes, we can click on the corresponding terminal and hit Ctrl-C. Now, to make it so that all of our terminals we open are able to use ROS terminal commands without having to run this source command, we will have to modify our bashrc file, which the documentation goes over in the next tutorial, which we can get to by clicking on the tutorials and demo link, and clicking on Configure your ROS2 environment. I will scroll over to the second section where it goes over adding sourcing to your shell startup script. Essentially, it is just using the same source command we used earlier, placed at the end of our bashrc file. In this case, our distribution we are using is ROS Foxy, so we will change the command to reflect that. We can also go down to section 3 to the add:/cd command. We will go over this command later in this course. Do not worry about running the second line, which exports a root directory. This is mainly used if you built ROS from source. Lastly, if you ever wanted to check that you are properly sourced and what version of ROS you are running, you can use the Linux command printenv. We can sort through the environment list by using the grep command to only look for the fields which include ROS_. After running it, we can see our ROS version, ROS Python version, and that we are using the Foxy ROS distribution. Congratulations! With that, you have successfully installed ROS. Feel free to look over the ROS2 documentation website pages for more information if you are interested. But with that, let's move on to installing our code editor.